What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to incorporate custom fonts and text into your Pygame games. So this is going to be a quick and easy tutorial because I've been moving across the country. I'm still not completely unpacked. I moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Colorado. So I am a little bit all over the place, but I wanted to keep bringing you content on the channel. So I thought I'd go back to basics. I've actually had a lot of questions recently on what to do if your text isn't working or you want a different type of font in your Pygame games. So we're going to cover that in this video. I'll quickly discuss to you what I have already on screen is basically the bare minimum to have a Pygame game up and working. So you want to start by importing the Pygame module. You can run pip install Pygame if you don't have it installed yet. And then do pygame.init, set up a clock and an FPS just like you see here, and then you're going to use those inside this main game loop to just control the speed of your game. And then for this tutorial, all I need to set up in the beginning other than that is a font, which we'll be talking a lot in depth once I discuss just this shell. And then the screen, you just say pygame.display.setMode, and then in square brackets give it width and height. And then inside the main game loop, I've filled the screen with a background color just so it would be clear what was going on. And then I made text, which again, we're going to talk about these lines a lot, so don't worry about it. And then I just have the bare minimum of event handling that just basically says if I press the X in the pop-up window when I load the game in, it'll allow me to quit and close the program so my computer doesn't crash. So these 20 lines of code you see here are really the bare minimum shell to create a Pygame window. And just to show you what's going on when I boot this up, it's just a very plain 800 by 500 screen with check out this text on the screen. Okay, so now let's talk about actually where that text comes from and how to change the font that you're using or have multiple fonts. So to set up a font when you're creating a Pygame game, it's this pygame.font.font with a capital F, where you actually initialize it in the beginning. So you could call this my font or variable font or just font is fine. And then you want to point it at a TTF file. This is the most important part of the tutorial. A lot of my videos, I'll use freesansbold.ttf, which you see on the screen now, because most Windows applications and I believe Mac and iOS applications have freesansbold available on the system by default. So this should work for most people most of the time while they're building and designing a game. But as you saw on that window, it's not the coolest looking text. It's very generic, so you might not want to build out your entire game with freesansbold. So for this tutorial, I have two TTF files that I got from the internet. And if you don't know where you get custom fonts or new fonts, and you don't want to create one from scratch, which is totally reasonable, check out dafont, DAFONT.com. I get a lot of mine from there. They're not a sponsor. I don't have a partnership with them or anything. It's just thousands of fonts available for free, and they'll specify on there whether it's a free download for personal use or it'll say 100% free, meaning you can incorporate into games and apps and you don't have to pay royalties or anything like that. So if you're trying to develop something for profit or commercial release, make sure you grab ones that say 100% free, not just free for personal use, so you don't have to get in trouble like paying royalties. Anyways, that's a long way of saying however you go about it, you need to end up with this .ttf file. It's like true type or text, some true text file. I don't remember exactly what TTF stands for, but that's the file you need. You don't have to put it in a fonts folder. You could drop it straight into your game structure right underneath just the fonts tutorial folder. It's a little bit cleaner to put your assets in subfolders, which is why I have the fonts folder. But basically, in Pygame games, there are a total of 3 steps to get text on the screen. It's a little bit complicated compared to how simple and easy to use Pygame usually is in Python. But basically, you have to define your font in the very beginning, and you give it 2 arguments. You give it the font file, and then you give it a text size. So this is font size 52. I want it pretty big for this tutorial, but you can play around with that as much as you want. You could even make this a variable, and so you could call this like font size, and then just every time you were to use the text in your game, you could define font size or change the value of font size right before that text. So this is just the TTF file and your font size, but then when you get to the point where you actually want to draw it on the screen, you make another variable, call it my text or my string or text or whatever, and you do font.render, and this is font or whatever variable name you put here. So if you call this my font, this would be my font.render, and then you give this one 3 arguments. The first one should be the actual text that you want to draw on the screen. So if you wanted to include variables in this, you would just make it an F string, and you would put your variables, inside curly brackets. Or if it's just a string, then you just put the string there. You can put a variable here as long as it's in string format. So the first argument is a string. And then the second argument is anti-alias, which basically is a true or false. And as I understand it, you just put true and all of your lines will be smoother. So I always put true. I don't know a scenario where you'd want that to be false. So just put true for now. And if you're in a scenario where false makes it look better, go for it. And then the third one is color. Pygame has a lot of colors built in, which I didn't originally know when I started making Pygame tutorials. Some of my great YouTube viewers pointed that out to me. But so for this tutorial, because I have an orange background and because it's Halloween, it's October, which is Halloween month for those watching in the future. We'll do black text on an orange background. It'll be fun and seasonal. And then the last part in getting text actually on the screen is this screen.blit, where you're block transfer or actually drawing the text onto the screen. So this is the most important part, because if you just do these first 2 steps, it won't appear anywhere. So you'll have defined and rendered your font, but it won't appear anywhere. So you do screen.blit, and then you tell it what rendered font to draw onto the screen, what object, and then you give it an X and Y coordinate. Okay, so that's everything required to put text on the screen, which is how we end up with, check out this text at 100 pixels over from the left and then 150 pixels down from the top. But the purpose of this video is, what if we want to change this font? And it's actually really easy. So if you have a .ttf file in your project directory somewhere, all you need to do is, when you do this font.render in the very beginning here, you just need to make sure you point it to the font that you want it to be. So I'm going to point it to font1.ttf. I'll leave the font size at 52. And I'm going to just leave it in the position it already was in. But look, without changing anything else other than, actually, that's not going to work because we need to include the folder. So it needs to be fonts/font1.ttf. So if I had this file up 1 level in my folder structure, that would have worked, but I put it in a special fonts folder. So now we'll see, check out this text. And this was a cool kind of Star Wars-y vibed one that I used in a platformer tutorial that's also on the channel. And I really like the style of this text. So that's my first font. But let's say you wanted 2 different fonts in your game because you had like an instructions font that was like a little bit easier to read and a little bit smaller, and then you had like a title font or a menu font. It's really easy to have multiple fonts. You can have as many fonts as you want. Sometimes you want them just to be separated by font size, so you would do like big font, little font, medium font. And so to do that, you just say font2 equals, and then point it at the TTF file you want, and I called mine font2. And I'll give it a different font size so you can kind of see that. And then we also need these 2 same sorts of lines where we define the text. So we'll call this one my text2. And this is going to be font2 because remember, it's got to be whatever that variable name is, .render. And then we'll change it up a little bit. We'll say check out this text as well. We'll still have it be black. And then we'll move this one a little bit left just so it has a different X and Y start position so you can kind of see how this works. And so this needs to be my text2. But just like this, we have a second string with a different font. That's actually that font size is a little too big. Check out this text as well. Let's make that one 36, just so it's just so I think the whole thing will show up on the screen this way. Okay, so you can see this one's kind of, I think, Squid Games based off of the Netflix show Squid Game. But these are just two kind of fun fonts. You might use this one sparingly because it's sort of hard to read. But hopefully this tutorial is what you were looking for if you clicked on this video. And that's a basic introduction of how to use multiple fonts, custom fonts, and sort of how text works in Pygame games. I hope to get back to some long-form tutorials and sort of start branching out the channel as I get settled in Colorado. But until then, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for tons more content, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video and what you're hoping to see more of in the future. As always, good luck with your code, and thanks for watching. Until next time, thanks, bye.